Hello, my name is Skylar.
And my name is Tyler.
Before you listen to the brand new season of Dad's podcast, Over the Rainbow,
We want to say a big thank you to the traditional owners of the land we're on today.
we're standing on the lands of the Wurundjeri people who have looked after this land for thousands and thousands of years.
Do you know which land you're on right now?
Do you? We want to pay our respects to elders past, present, and the ones who are growing up today, just like us. This land was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Hello and welcome to another instalment of Over the Rainbow, a Queer Dads podcast series. I am Murray, Rainbow Dad extraordinaire, and your host. I am so fortunate this week to be talking to my friend and business mogul, Damien Chambers. Damien is a proud Rainbow Dad and co-founder of NewGen Families. After becoming a father through surrogacy and developing a passion for helping others build their families, he packed up his bags in Melbourne, Australia with his son Nate, and they ventured over to the US, where he now operates the hugely successful NewGen Families, which are helping to create a new generation of families for intended parents all over the world. I first met Damien, who I affectionately call Damo, when I was living in Melbourne. We connected through a Rainbow Dads event and became fast friends. I adore Damo and I'm so proud of everything he has achieved. If you are listening today and wondering, where do I even start with creating my rainbow family? This chat is most definitely for you. Let's dive in and take a listen. Now, you come with a lot of credentials. Just to set the scene, do you want to maybe introduce yourself and maybe qualify yourself as a Rainbow Dad, but also what you do for a living?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Damien, and I'm a gay dad via surrogacy. I'm also a sperm donor. I've helped 3 lesbian couples and a straight couple in Melbourne start their families. I'm also an embryo donor. I donated my embryo to a very dear friend who was struggling to achieve her dreams of having a biological child herself. And I worked for a surrogacy agency for a few years and then basically pivoted and set up my own agency here in the US and moved to the US about 4 years ago. So
that is absolutely huge, but it presents a real opportunity for us to pick your brain. There are a lot of people that would be listening to this podcast that would be considering a Rainbow Dad pathway to parenthood, and we will talk about that in a moment. I want to set the scene of how you and I know each other. Stephen, my husband, and I had our children. We had them in London and we moved back to Melbourne. And it was because Stephen had been presented with a work opportunity that was too good to pass up. But it meant that all of my social connections that I had built when I'd become a Rainbow Dad were all lost. And I remember having a Rainbow Dads event and meeting you, and we just clicked, didn't we?
it was amazing because you literally lived, off the same street as us, around the corner. And so I think it was just meant to be. And I think really from that moment, sort of paved the way. There's so many great gay dads and great events and great meetups, but I think that within that sort of larger organization and that larger community, there's also, these micro communities as well that we created. And I call you your lifelong friends.
When you become a Rainbow Dad, you realize how much you need those connections and how much you need those connections from other Rainbow Dads. It's great to have other parent friends, but when you've got another Rainbow Dad friend, that it's just a connection that you need. And I remember we had connected, we realized that we lived around the corner, and 1 week later you were having me over for wine and cheese and dips to watch RuPaul's Drag Race. And I was like, this guy's legend.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I've noticed, over the last couple of years being away, I tried getting a group up here. I'm part of a gay dads organization in LA. I just don't know a better organization. Like these Rainbow Dads Victoria or whatever the official name is. I know they've changed over times, but there were literally hundreds and hundreds of families, and I haven't experienced that. I mean, look, Vegas is a transient city, so you're not going to get too many, gay men that want to settle down in Vegas. But I was a bit surprised in LA. I thought there would have been a lot more. But there's nothing like the one that exists in Melbourne.
All right, Damien, I want you to tell us about your beautiful son, Nate. I want you to cast your mind back, because Nate's how old now?
He'll be 7 in October. So he's
Where does
6
the
turning
time go? But tell me how Nate came into the world.
So Nate was born by surrogacy. I had a few little hiccups on the way. Look, I mean, I'm now 52, so Nate was born when I was 45. I started my journey to parenthood, I would say, in my late 30s, and it took quite some time. But let's just rewind to when I came out. When I came out, I always knew I wanted to be a parent, and there was a wonderful bookstore in Fitzroy. I was living in Fitzroy at the time, and it was called Hares and Hyenas.
Yes.
And I think it was on Johnson Street at the time, and then I think it moved to Brunswick Street. But I just remember going, what is this? And I walked in and I was like, and I had literally just come out, and I thought I was the only gay in the village, of course, at that, I'd only met a few in my time. And I walked into this bookstore, and, there was Robert Rhodey series and all of these, sort of nonfiction things. And then I saw this book, The Lesbian and Gay Parenting Handbook. And I think her name was April Martin, I think. And I was like, boom. I just opened it. And, this is a long time ago. This is in the 90s. So I don't even think I think surrogacy had just started, was more traditional. I'm not sure if gestational surrogacy had started. But anyway, long story short, it was just all of these stories of these American gay men and lesbian women kind of doing all these co-parenting arrangements. And so I was very lucky that at 19 years old, I was able to kind of park that idea. I was like, oh my God, you know what? I'm going to live my life now, but I know the possibility. So over time, I just sort of kept up with the evolution of gay parenting. And then it to India, failed attempts in India, failed attempts in Thailand. And then I bit the bullet and was just like, I'm just going to have to spend the money in the US. So we have a very unique situation in the sense that I hit up a girlfriend of mine so we have a known donor situation, which isn't common, but beautiful nonetheless. My friend, she donated her eggs. We call her TT, and then her whole family are involved. So we're very lucky that we have a known situation, and she's TT, like an auntie figure, but her parents are the grandparents, and he refers to them as grandma, grandpa. Yeah, I had a really successful journey. I was very fortunate. She flew to LA. We did the egg retrieval, created embryos. I was lucky back then in America. I got matched with a surrogate immediately, and now that surrogate, our beautiful surrogate Evie, she works for NewGen Families. So it is a unique situation.
She works for NewGen, did you say?
Yeah, so she's the medical records review manager. So
wow.
Yeah, she reviews all their medical records, and she lives in Arizona, which is like a 4-hour drive from here.
Wow.
Nathaniel's, they have a beautiful connection.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a beautiful connection. And so, yeah, that's kind of the story. And yeah.
And so what would you say, so did you research multiple ways to perhaps maybe bring Nate into the world? Did you consider altruistic surrogacy? Obviously, you went down the path of commercial surrogacy. Was there a research period that you went through?
Yeah, I think the research period went for like a decade. I even had single straight girlfriends who we'd, made pacts. I think this is common. I'm finding it out.
Very common.
We make pacts when we're in our 20s and say, well, if I don't have a baby and you don't have a baby, can I have a baby with you? I absolutely did. I looked at the altruistic path in Australia. I was... it kind of wasn't my thing. There was, and there's different legislation, obviously, in the different states in Australia. I wasn't comfortable kind of selling myself on these Facebook groups, knowing that my chances were really, really limited, knowing how many altruistic journeys are done in Australia or even in Victoria, and then kind of putting myself out there. Maybe if I was 15 years younger, sure, but I'm not into social media much myself. And so it was definitely quite overwhelming writing. I remember because I think I put an ad, not an ad, but I wrote in this Facebook group, oh, this is me and choose me. And I was like, why would anyone choose how when there's literally 10,000 intended parents and then there's only a handful of surrogates? So that kind of didn't work for me.
I interviewed a couple who went down the path of altruistic surrogacy, and I actually had the surrogate on the episode as well. And I asked that question. I was like, well, when you're actually going out to promote yourself, does it feel a bit like you're showboating, like you're putting on an act? And he said, yes, it's completely that. It's very disingenuous. It's not the real authentic. You're like putting on a show because you want to be picked.
I don't want to say the word beg, but borderline beg. I looked at fostering and I think that the fostering people are like, yeah, you're so lovely, but you would get so connected to our foster babies. I went through everything. I researched everything. And I think that at the time I was kind of disappointed because I had to bite the bullet. America was so much more expensive and, getting caught up in that there was like India closed their doors, I think, first of all, for same-sex couples or for the gay community. And then they continued making that a ban on all foreigners, which is a law that I believe stands today. Still, only domestic surrogacy is allowed in India. I think Thailand's actually, there's talk of it coming back up, but that's another conversation for another day. I just was like, is this a sign? And I put a pause on for a while, actually. I didn't, I was very fortunate to be able to sell my companies. I had a couple of companies that I sold off and I was like, I'm just going to have a baby and retire. And then it was like, oh, when I had my son, it was quite an eye opener. I always wanted to be a dad, but I love work. I was not bored, but it was kind of like, you know what newborns do? They poop, eat and sleep. And I had all this time on my hands and I was like, so I ended up going back to work anyway and managed.
Did you learn anything along the way? Like, I've interviewed enough dads to know about commercial surrogacy, and what seems to happen is there seems to be a country trend, like, okay, everyone's doing it in India now. Oh, now they've moved over to Thailand. And what inevitably happens is something will happen in that country, and there's controversial things that have happened in terms of surrogacy in the particular countries that I've just mentioned, and then it gets shut down. So then what happens is America's still there, but then people still try and find sort of other pathways in other countries, and then the same thing happens.
My observation is it's such a personal choice which destination you take. We advise all of our clients, just do your due diligence. When I'm doing a consultation with parents, there's absolutely no sales element involved. I'll spend the first 10 or 15 minutes saying why I think we're a great company and why I think you should come with us. But at the same time, I'm like, I want you to go away. And I want you to interview 10 agencies and I want you to choose us over the 10 other agencies, regardless of what destination that is. Different people have different risk, that are risk adverse or not. Now, if a new country pops up and somebody's going to just go, yep, let's sign up. Clearly, they're aware of the risks and they're aware that they are absolutely going to be like the guinea pigs. So it's really important for them to understand that what they're signing up for is the unknown. And the same things pop up in every destination regardless. You get conservative governments that use it as a political agenda to try and stop it. That's one of the things. And then it's just over time, like we've got at the moment, Argentina, there was a crisis. There's a crisis in Greece. And as you said, we see these destinations pop up and then all of a sudden that they don't. That's why the two destinations that we offer are really tested and, America being the gold standard. And then we offer Colombia as well. And, Colombia is one of those destinations that just seems to have ridden out the storm while other destinations have popped up and then disappeared. So, but it's a tough one because at the end of the day, the desire to be a parent can blur sometimes and that desperation definitely blur your decision-making and the choices that you make. So do your due diligence. That's all I can say. Dot your I's and cross your T's and just make informed decisions, even if the people on the receiving end are selling you rainbows. Let's talk about the current climate in America right now. It is terrible. Costs are going up. There's a massive supply and demand issue, and surrogates are now realizing that they have a lot more power than what they might have had 7 or 8 years ago, which is understandable. They're putting their lives on the line. They're risking their lives. They're doing something incredible, but the pricing that we're seeing in America is just growing exponential, sort of parallel. And as the waiting lists get larger and larger and this supply and demand crisis doesn't get solved, then prices are just going to be going up. That's why, unfortunately, that people are being pushed towards these more affordable destinations, especially for our rainbow dads. Because the most common request that we get is you get a same-sex male couple, married or unmarried, whatever, and they want to create embryos using the same egg donor and have one biological child each. That is the most common request that we get. And therefore, you're looking at, in Australian dollars, maybe 600,000-700,000 Australian dollars for 2 babies in America. Where you're looking at, $250 for 2 babies in Colombia. And so it's a very, very big difference.
Well, let's move down that path. So you had Nate. You were living in Australia And then the opportunity to start a surrogacy business came up. Take us through what was happening in your life at that time.
I worked for an agency as their Australian representative, and there was just a lot of interest. And knowing that they had someone on the ground in Australia managing their journey was quite comforting. And so I was able to, sign on quite a few with this agency. And as someone that has had successful exits in business, I just had this idea and I thought, wow, this is a problem and a pain point. There's enough intended parents here that would trust in me if I was to actually take a leap of faith and move abroad. Yeah. So my idea was initially that I wanted to just provide a really safe space and be like the first Australian owned and operated agency that was abroad, offering different plans and programs. And then I didn't anticipate that it would blow up and then turn into this kind of global agency. Great. We've got, I think nearly 100 Australians signed with us. Well, we have just as many, if not more, international and global. I lived in Germany. I lived in Europe for 12 years. I speak fluent German. A lot of German clients. And we've got, German recruiters in Germany sending us clients there. Yeah. And I think that was the surprise, that I just initially wanted to service Australians and would have been happy. Then it just kind of became this bigger organization. And now I think we've got 16 to 20 different countries represented.
And how long has it been operating?
4 years. Literally, I think September will be 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Damo, if someone was listening to this thinking, I want to try, I think we've decided that we want to do commercial surrogacy, they look up NewGen and they make an inquiry. Take us through the steps of what that person or that couple can expect.
From the onset, it's so overwhelming. There's just so many different milestones involved in a surrogacy journey. And so what we try and do from the onset is educate them in sections, I suppose. And there's really 6 key services to surrogacy, regardless if that's in America or the other destinations. There's the agency and the role of the agency. Then you've got the clinic and obviously all the IVF and medical processes and procedures. Then you've got the legal phase, and that, applies to your country's legal surrogacy legislation there. Obviously, in 3 parts of Australia, being New South Wales, Queensland, and the Australian Capital Territory, ACT, it's illegal to enter into an international commercial surrogacy arrangement. And so we kind of advise on that, or we've got, attorneys in Australia who we refer to get some solid advice on that if we do have clients from those destinations.
Can you unpack that a bit? When you say it's illegal?
I don't want to quote the actual law offhand, but yeah, it is, from my understanding, when altruistic surrogacy was being legislated in Australia, there were a few conservative politicians in those areas that were like, oh, if we're not going to allow commercial surrogacy in Australia, then why should we allow it at all for our residents? And so I think that was the reason why they added just this. And all it is, I think it's like a little paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not like this massive legislation, like 20,000 pages or whatever. No, I think it's just one little paragraph that then goes on as an addition to state that, that that commercial surrogacy is also illegal. I think it, once again, don't quote me, but it does carry a hefty fine and a 3-year imprisonment term, maximum imprisonment term. However, there's no case law.
No.
There's no case. So that's it. Oh, that was very dark. Let's go back to the rainbow bit. No. So agency, clinic, the legal phase. Then there's the escrow and financial management. Really, really important. This is let's just face it straight up. Surrogacy is the most bizarre thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially when you're doing it abroad. You are literally paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in some in America to pay a complete stranger who you've only known for 24 hours. And you go, yep, you're the one.
Yes.
And now I'm going to transfer all this money and the stranger's going to carry my precious cargo for 9 months. But that's what I'm saying. The reason I put this up is escrow. Obviously really important that your funds are held very safely and securely in escrow. Then there's insurances, all the different insurances for the surrogate, life insurance and, just a standard health insurance policy. And what's really important is that international a newborn insurance policy for international intended parents. So insurances and mental health. We are massive advocates of mental health at NewGen. We work with a really great company called Embra Health in America who psychologically screen our gestational carrier surrogates. And then not just for the surrogates, but the intended parents also have a really clear roadmap and a mental health, access to mental health the entire time. Because as we know, if things can and do go wrong when I'm on a consultation, I walk them through kind of the 6 key services and then really just step by step, creating the embryos, then moving on to surrogate matching, and then moving on to the transfer stage, and then moving on to the pregnancy, the first trimester, the relationship between the surrogate, your fertility clinic that you're working with, plus the surrogate's own obstetrician gynecologist, because there's the fertility clinic that's doing all of the injectable medical protocols and the IVF. But you've also got the surrogate where she lives. She's basically doing all of her monitoring at home, which is familiar. She's, you have to be a mother to be a surrogate.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually she's going to the same place that she went to when she had her kids, the same OBGYN, and she's delivering at the hospital that she delivered at. So we kind of talk through that. But, the great thing is that, we have a Bible.
Yes.
Because you can spend an hour, and I see sometimes, because the time zones, the Aussies are getting up at like 7 o'clock in the morning to have their consults with me, and they've got skinny latte, and you can just see it. They're like waking up throughout the consultations.
Have they done their due diligence by the time that they get to you? Are they saying to you, oh, we've interviewed some other country agencies, or we've gone down the path of, we've looked into fostering and we realise it's not for us?
Really good question, because that's the first question I ask. Yeah, the first question I ask them is, we have so many different parents coming to us from all sides of the world. I need you to give me, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at your journey? Am I the first person that you're engaging with? Have you just started your research, or have you interviewed 20 agencies and you've chosen most of your team and now you're just going to make a decision and you're ready to go in a couple of weeks? On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you sit in between there? So it is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And, look, regardless of where they are in their journey, I love kind of unpacking everything from beginning to end. I'm like, I'm sorry this is going to sound repetitive, but it's really important for you to understand what the NewGen way is.
Yes.
And and let's just say it's very different. It's very confrontational when I'm selling. When I'm talking about the American journey, it's brutal now, because there's just this, it's very strange. It's very delicate, because there's a crisis.
Yes.
And the parents have kind of lost all the power.
Right. Okay.
And America's moving into this more, if you've got the cash, then you can register with multiple concierge services. You can pay a VIP fast track. You can spend $20,000 more. Instead of being on the waiting list, you can jump the queue.
And is that simply demaand? That there's more demand than there is supply?
And that's because now that the us as the agencies and the surrogates, we kind of have the power now. And that's why I say to intended parents, when I'm working with them and when we're doing this consultation, we still have parents coming in with a list. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, I want that. And I'm like, okay, let's just start again. Let's look at the supply and demand issue. And you've got to imagine yourself, if you're going into an American journey, as I'm competing now against the tens of thousands of people that want to have a baby via surrogacy. If I can be flexible on all of these list things here, then I'm going to get matched quicker. It's that simple.
Right.
If we have parents that come in and they're like I kind of was really, you're going to laugh and go, really, were you? And I was like, I wanted a baby so long ago, by the time I was ready, I was willing to just not have any criteria. I was like,
right,
I'm not fussy, because I wanted to be a dad. So whatever's going to get me matched quicker, then just give me any profile. So I was like that. But now we don't see that. There's this education online, there's misinformation, and we kind of get parents coming with all of these requests. And I'm like, well, we can try that, but that might take 5 years.
So what are some of the requests? Like what are some of the things that people say that they want? And then obviously
there's BMI, number of pregnancies, how many miscarriages, are you vegan? What's your diet like? What's all of that? And it's kind of like surrogates go through the most incredible screening. And we're really concerned about our surrogates. They have to go through psychological screening, social screening, criminal background checks. Like, we know so much about our surrogates, and yet we know nothing about our parents. You've got to role reverse. Our surrogates are equally concerned about the parents that they're caring for. They want the baby that they're caring for to go into a home and a loving home. And so we don't really know much about the parents. We know a lot more about the surrogates. So, we understand, of course, the stresses and the paranoias and the fears associated with the intended parents. But at the same time, the great thing is we can absolutely reassure them that, the gestational carriers have been put through the right steps and appropriate steps. And that would explain why there is a supply and demand issue. We might have 1 or 2 in 100 applicants that actually gets through, from our marketing especially.
There goes your gold standard. Why is America the gold standard? Look at all the things that they do before a surrogate is allowed to carry a baby. So if someone was to come through, they come through and they have their interview with you, and do you start laying out costs and stuff in the first sort of like meeting, or do you give all the...
At the very end.
At the very end.
The great thing about our website is you can download the guide. And so most people, that's a question like I always ask, have you had the opportunity to look through, our guide? And they're like, yeah, we have. And I'm like, well, that's pretty much what we're going to go through today.
Yes.
Step by step, we're just going to go through that. And I say to them, even if you don't choose this as an agency, print out our guide. It's a bit of a Bible. There might be things that need to be updated, in a year or two, whatever, but it's pretty much an overview of what the surrogacy journey is like from beginning to end. There's a lot of agencies that will take your money up front and then put you on their waiting list. And then and they have really strict no refund clauses. Uh-huh. So when we were doing our discovery and research into agencies and all the different kinds of business models that they had, we looked at that and I was like, oh, I don't know if I would like to have 100 couples' money already cashed out. And yet we're only matching 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 surrogates a month. To have that money up front and then knowing the climate right now that's only getting worse, that was a big no-no for us. So there are traditional agencies that have been around longer that will do that, but you've got to figure out what kind of a person you are. Do you want to go with one of the old standing traditional agencies that have been around, they're solid, or are you wanting to sort of move in towards this new business model like our agency where we absolutely don't take any money up front at all until they're matched with a surrogate? The caveat is that we are an American agency, even though we're Australian owned, and 95, 98% of our clients already come to us with embryos, because as an agency, traditionally we would start with when they create, once they've got the embryos, we match them with a surrogate and we start. The trend has been in Australia that they start with us from the beginning, meaning that we'll refer them out to a clinic and then they'll create their embryos and then we'll do the whole process. There is a transaction earlier because we're engaging with them earlier on. Right. But normally what happens in most scenarios is there's this trend now where many parents are registering with 10 or 15 agencies that don't take money up front. Then it becomes kind of like a competition for us to then match them quickly. But at the same time, that's why I call my sessions with intended parents more educative and very much less salesy, because whenever we have a surrogate that is ready for matching, we have so many people we can match them with without being arrogant, because I don't want to say that.
No, but it's just the reality.
But we know that. We know what the supply and demand issue is. So we don't really need intended parents. We desperately need surrogates. So that's our focus. It's like, how can we reinvent the wheel? What are we doing this week with our social media? Come on, guys. Have you got friends? This week, we've got a promotion on. If you refer a surrogate to us, you get X amount in a referral fee. Do you know what I mean? So the focus for us right now is to try and solve that supply and demand issue and really just put all of our resources, or the majority of our resources, into surrogate recruitment, because that's really what we need now.
So if I was an intended parent and I wanted to sign on with NewGen Families, what would you be telling me the timelines would be? Because all I'm thinking about is, when will I get my baby, right?
Yeah. So if you're just starting out, you'd be looking at 2 to 3 years if you don't have any embryos. If you wanted the fast track program to skip the queue, you'd probably be looking at 2 years.
How is that information usually received by your intended parents that have got really no gauge on timelines, that they're being told 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's received well. I think that you can understand that once you unpack all the different milestones and what it entails, then, I think that they're not really shocked at all. But I think that the biggest concern right now that we have are these waiting times.
Yes.
So there's a big gap. You might only take 3 months. It might take you, once you decide and go, right, I'll go off to America, or go to a clinic, or whether it's Colombia or America, you go and create your embryos. Creating your embryos is one thing, but surrogate matching is what is holding up all destinations right now. And so therefore, you don't know really. Averages, 2 to 3 years, absolutely.
And then your list of demands have to get shorter and shorter and shorter, because if you're demanding so much, then it's, leaving you out of the equation, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. But we're really, we have parents who are like, that's absolute deal breaker. No, I'm not going to be flexible on those at all. And that's fine. We still reach out to them and just say, unfortunately, we don't have a profile for you this month. And we would assume that they are registered with many other agencies as well, because that is the thing. That's what we do. Absolutely. If someone's coming in with all of these requirements, we 100% say, in your best interest, if time is of the essence, you need to now register with everyone you can, because we don't anticipate this is going to happen anytime soon with us.
Damo, take me through, you get to walk that journey with these intended parents. You see them at the very start, they're clueless, asking, they've got all their demands and their big lists, and then they sign on and they're going through the journey.
My journey was smooth. Like, I got pregnant, my surrogate got pregnant first go. We had a couple of hiccups along the way, but nothing major. And so I kind of had a really good journey.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't have that, what the worst thing about this whole process is that Mother Nature plays a role in this. And scientists don't like Mother Nature. Scientists like to be able to go, this is the reason why.
Yeah.
And the more I learn about this industry, the further away I become of actually even understanding those kind of medical things and the reasoning behind it. And you just have to accept in the moment, we don't know. And we're never going to know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, what they want is to blame. Why, or they want not to blame, but they want answers.
Yes. And control, I would imagine, as well.
Absolutely. This is an industry where even the best reproductive endocrinologists and doctors can't even give an explanation. And I'll give an example. We've had couples that have sent really old embryos from a foreign country that were 10 years old. And at the time, the thaw and freeze techniques for those embryos were completely different to what they use.
Yeah.
Different country, different languages. And we've shipped them over, one embryo, and pregnant and baby perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
We've got same-sex male couples where the science all points toward great sperm, using a young egg donor, using a surrogate that has a proven fertility history, had 2-3 babies, and sometimes it takes 5 or 6 embryo transfers for them to get pregnant. That doesn't even make sense. There's no logical scientific explanation for that.
Yeah.
And this embryo that took first go wasn't even tested.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so Mother Nature, unfortunately, as we know, can be cruel. And so, going back to the question, I've really learned that patience is your best friend. Really, patience is your best friend, and trusting in the process.
Yes.
And really tapping into mental health. If you're feeling like you are a controlling type A personality and you just want to control, and we identify that straight away. So in our agreements as well, that we as the company reserve the right to ask you to do a mental health check-in at any time throughout the journey. And they kind of have to. So but it's so beneficial. And these are just conversations. This is what I always say. You're not being psychoanalyzed.
Yes.
You're having conversations with professionals that understand what you're going through and do
that goes back to the gold standard that we talk about with America. These things are all here for a reason, and that's a whole package that you're buying into. Can we talk about costs? I know that it's it would be difficult to pinpoint an exact cost because every situation's different. But anyone listening to this that kind of wants a sort of, a ballpark figure, I want a baby. How much is it going to cost me?
So in the US, you're looking at least $200,000 to $250,000, not including travel and accommodation and baby gear and all of that. So just the baby costs.
And are there any guarantees? Like I've heard of agencies offering baby guarantees.
Yeah, look, great question. So in America, not traditionally, but if they are going to offer that baby guarantee package in America, you're going to be looking at, I think, maybe, I don't want to give a quote, maybe 300, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of the times they're more IVF guarantees.
Right.
I don't know of any agencies that have a surrogate guarantee, because the surrogate costs are completely separate to the IVF costs, and that's where it mixes up. But that's America. Colombia, on the other hand, for men under 40, there is what's called a single guarantee plan or a double guarantee plan. And that is for men 40 years and under whose sperm analysis and sperm sample qualifies them. Basically they have to have all their markers need to be in the normal range. And, it's the sperm that's deposited in Colombia. They use that as, grounds for what qualifies them if they do. Men over 40 are able to do what's called a DNA fragmentation on that sperm sample. And if that comes back within normal ranges as well, they can be approved for what's called a single or double guarantee plan with conditions. And that condition is that if they run out of embryos on that first round of IVF, they pay $10,000 and then they get moved into the unlimited guarantee. So it's basically saying, hey, you're a little bit older, your sperm sample might not be as good, so we're going to give it a crack. And if you do achieve, pregnancy, live birth, great, then you're in the standard program. But if we need more embryos, then you just pay a one-off $10,000 fee for that. So you're looking at around for one baby in Colombia, looking around, there's different agencies that quote, I believe, between 70 and 85,000. And then for a double guarantee, you're looking at around the 140,000 mark for two babies. Hence why it's so popular with gay couples. We have, say, high net worth individuals that go down the Colombia route because they want two babies.
In terms of why that guarantee has sort of popped up over the sort of last decade, because before 10 years, you weren't really hearing of these guarantees. That's because of the stories that people say that they moved into commercial surrogacy and they were paying money and it was failed attempts and they were paying more money and they were throwing money at. What's your commentary on that?
I just think it was competition. I think that once they had started popping up, then clinics were like, okay, we need to follow suit here, because if people are offering a live birth, obviously it's all about data as well. They're looking at data and going, okay, well, we can charge X amount because we know that generally speaking, 87.6% of cases are achieving a live birth on first round of embryo creation. So we can we can make it more expensive than a pay-as-you-go model.
Yes.
And therefore, only on the odd occasion are we're kind of losing money then.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's lots of gamble. And this is what I say, if you can get into these guarantee live birth plans, it's amazing, because we have clients that just have all the luck. They get an egg donor, they lock in their egg donor, they create embryos, then they get pregnant first go and their journey's 18 months to 2 years and that's it.
Yeah.
But the same person who has all the bad luck, where they needed 3 egg donors to create embryos, and then there was a 6-month wait for a surrogate, and then they got rematched 3 times and their journey took 3.5 years, their out-of-pocket expenses are identical. They're paying the same amount of money. And so at some point, obviously, the clinic is absorbing those costs and running a loss. I think that's one of the few reasons, that's one of the main few reasons why we endorse Colombia, because it is great for peace of mind. I mean, then you only have mental stress.
Yes.
To deal.
It goes back to that patience that you were talking about.
100%. And that in America, it's both mental and financial stress.
Yes.
Whereas in Colombia, in the guarantee programs, it really just comes down to that. Okay, now I've just got to manage my stress levels. I'm fine. We've got the money. We've paid our money. That's it. One and done. So
I guess you being an expat of Australia, what would you say about, you have to be hearing about the debate and the commentary around commercial surrogacy in Australia. What would you say? I mean, Australia is always very slow to catch up, but, the debate you're either on either side of the fence, is that it's unethical to go into a commercial arrangement because you can't guarantee that the woman's not being motivated by the money. And then the other side of the fence which is probably where I land more personally, is saying everyone here is getting, if you talk about an altruistic surrogacy arrangement, which is legal in most states in Australia, if you talk about altruistic surrogacy, everyone is being paid. The lawyers are being paid. The IVF clinics are being paid. Everyone's being paid except for the person doing the bulk of the work.
Well, first of all, I am absolutely strong in my viewpoint on altruistic surrogacy in Australia being accessible to anyone but friends or family.
Right. Okay.
I just don't even I think that's just my personal viewpoint.
Why is that?
Because I've seen what goes on in these Facebook groups. And there's a power imbalance, and there should never be a power imbalance if something is truly and utterly altruistic.
Yeah.
There's a massive power imbalance. And so you have these surrogates. I had to remove myself because I had some heated debates. I had one debate with before I left the group, and somebody said, this is never going to happen. Commercial surrogacy is never going to happen in Australia. And they were very opinionated. And I said, let me rephrase it. would you change your mind if you knew that commercial surrogacy could really, if it was legislated here, and that was going to help like thousands of families and more surrogates might come out of the woodworks, would you be okay with that? And she was like, oh, I think you're confused. She goes, I'm okay with commercial surrogacy in America, but I'm just not okay with that in Australia. And I'm like, you're either for a concept or against a concept. Geographic location shouldn't, like, are you for the death penalty or not? Like, I'm okay for the death penalty in America.
Yeah.
But let's not do it in Australia. I can't judge anybody for everyone's entitled to their own viewpoint. Of course, these women should be compensated. Are you kidding me?
Yes. It's just,
I don't even know why it's even a topic. And I can honestly say, as an agency owner whose main role here is to recruit surrogates, we would never accept any surrogate into our program if she was leading with, hey, I've got 100K of my college funds to pay off. We only accept surrogates whose hearts are truly in it, who lead with and give us the vibe that,
love that.
I'm a mother.
Yep.
I have easiest pregnancies and deliveries. I could not imagine being a parent. Oh my God, I want to help this family.
Mm-hmm.
To ask a surrogate, what was the most incredible moment of your journey? And they were like, handing over the baby and seeing the joy on their faces that I had a small part of that.
Absolutely.
If anybody's walked a day in my life of what I do on a daily basis, our surrogates are angel warriors. They are heroes, and they absolutely not even debatable should be compensated and compensated well. They're risking their lives. They're uprooting their lives. They've all got families, and generally these children are like under 5.
Yes.
They're having a baby for you, and it's like what they do is incredible. Absolutely, they should be compensated. But I think it should be a regulated industry. That's the only kind of criticism that I have with America. It's not regulated.
Right, okay.
And I think that in Australia, they would probably do it. Like New York is very regulated. So only recently has New York in the last few years it was banned. Surrogacy was banned in New York. And now they allow surrogacy, but they've got a lot of protocols and a lot of regulations that you have to go through to do surrogacy in New York. And I think that if done correctly in Australia, this could be amazing. And I truly believe
it's definitely an opportunity. I think even at the moment, the altruistic surrogacy, it's not regulated. You touching on what you said earlier, there's like a little paragraph that says it's 3 years imprisonment or whatever. Talk to anybody. It's not enforced. Nobody is enforcing it. But just having that there it's murky, and it's a deterrent, and it's something that needs to be regulated. And saying, it's unethical to give money to a woman for carrying a child. Okay, well, you need to back that. You need to qualify those statements. You need to put something behind that rather than saying a blanket statement, and that's why we don't have it.
And I think that, you've got conservatives, you've got religious people, you've got all of these other people, which is fine. Like, and that's the thing. I'm always that person that's like, you do you, boo, and I'll do me. Let's meet somewhere in the middle. Don't be coming and telling me what I should be thinking and feeling. And I really reserve that, for everybody to weigh in on it. But I think it's an exciting time. And I really hope, first and foremost, I really hope that they can just abolish the legislation in Queensland, New South Wales and ACT for banning it.
Yeah.
That would be a first step, because it would save countless hours of my time when I get inquiries from these residents going, am I going to go to jail? What's going to happen? And, there is no case law, and I don't anticipate there being any, because basically it's state legislation. When our clients apply for a passport or for citizenship by descent in the passport, the federal sort of agencies are not really interested in alerting the state authorities that, hey, excuse me, this is a surrogacy case, and I know that in your state that's just not what's happening or what has happened traditionally. But really important to just get that absolutely removed and abolished, whatever, as soon as possible. But it is a little bit exciting, even though we know Australia does take.
They drag their feet, don't they? I mean, they're just having the discussion now, so you can expect many years. But it's very interesting to have these discussions. And I think you doing what you've done, having lived in Australia, navigated the system, and you've actually started your own business and moved all the way over to the States. We're very privileged to be able to talk to you today, Damien.
Oh, thanks, Mary.
And on that note, let's wrap it up. Tell me what the best thing about being a rainbow dad is to you.
I think it's the platform that you have just to educate other people. I'm very fortunate to be born, I'm 52 now, and we're a different generation. And I think that all I love doing is just telling it how it is and really explaining. There's a lot of division right now in the world.
Yes.
Something happened during COVID, and it's horrible and it's everywhere. And when I'm behind closed doors with my rainbow community, I'm really angry. I'm like, why is everyone angry? I'm so done with the anger.
Yes.
What
Let's
people
just
don't
love.
understand.
Let's love.
This is what really baffles me.
Yeah.
Is that, and I've got my straight friend allies, and I've got their kids as well now that are in their early 20s and late teens, and I'm like, I love that you, our allies, but you can't educate with anything but love. And so for me, as a rainbow dad, I just love educating people. Like I'll be on a plane and I've got my nanny and she travels with me. Yeah. And everyone will go, your wife or whatever. And I'm just like, and I just lovingly just let them know and just say, hey, don't make the assumption. Because it's literally like me coming up to you, calling you a lesbian. Language is really important. Just don't make the assumption. You can say partner or you can say whatever. But, I really love using our situation and our story, of course, because I get asked all the time here because I have a funny accent that no one understands, by the way. If I say someone, hey, can you chuck that in the bin? Yeah. What? Or like, it's just the strollers in the boot. I can't say the pram is in the boot or whatever. It's a stroller, it's a trunk, it's trash. And also my son speaks American English now. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah. But no, loving being a gay dad and loving seeing that it's just everywhere now. I see rainbow families everywhere, and it's really, really nice. We are definitely, we have representation now, and I love it.
I think you are truly remarkable, and I think you have moved into such a sweet spot in terms of your career and where you're at, because obviously you're a business mogul, Damien, but you're actually doing something that just really, I think it really hits the heart. What you're doing is you're creating families for people. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I love what I do, and I'm very blessed. And I do give thanks every day and every night. My son and we absolutely do. Very grateful for the opportunities. And, this is a crazy country, but, I even had to say the other day to not get caught up in the division whilst I'm giving my gratitude and my thanks. I literally looked at, I have a beautiful home here and there's no way I could afford this home. Vegas real estate is so much cheaper than Melbourne. And, I was like, in my mind, I always dreamed of pool and palm trees, and I have that now. So I'm also grateful for America that has given me this opportunity to work and help people have families here. Kudos to you. Like, look what you're doing as well. You're spreading the love. And I think, you should be really proud of what you're doing as well. And I can't thank you enough for having me, Muzz.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. Kisses.
Love you, darling. I miss you so much.
Over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true.